All right, welcome to Inside the Numbers, folks, with the People's Pundit. I'm your host, Rich Barris, the People's Pundit. Oh, yes. All right, it's Free Will and Friday. Get your Q&As in, throw them over to Laura. She'll grab them. I'll try to leave as much time as possible to get to them. If I don't get to them, then Laura will most certainly hold them over until next Monday or make me do another session. So I'll do my best to do that. Don't forget to like if you like the video, share them far and wide. All right, subscribe to the platform you are watching this on. Of course, the best way to follow us is Locals, peoplespundit.locals.com. For those of you who are on Locals, bear with me today a little bit. There are some things, obviously, that you have seen already that I'm going to go over with everybody else because I think they're crucially important. And I think that we added a lot of information to the crosstabs, to the graphics, the interactives that we put out. There's, a headline, folks, that you could go over in a poll where it says, it's Biden +1, it's Trump +1. We can talk about the primaries and move on. But there's so much that needs to be really reviewed because you can miss it and then find out months later when you go to plot something on a graphic. Oh, my God, how did I not see that before? And there's something, there's this whole debate over Trump's non-white vote share and whether it's real or a mirage or not. And very clearly, it's nonsense. Unless you're paid by one of the other presidential campaigns to say it's not real, you'd have to be a total moron to think that it's not real, or you got to be blind or something. You should probably get a different profession, because if you're a pollster and you don't think it's real, you suck. All right, so go find another line of work. But why would you? Because if you're part of the grift, you'll just keep making millions of dollars telling people lies and pushing BS that you'll later correct and then release polls like everybody else when you're ready to abandon your candidate, which is what's going on now. Ship sinking, Titanic's going down, and everybody wants to hold hands and sing that damn theme song and run away like nothing happened. All right, but that's not going to be allowed here. As I'm plotting something for Locals the other day, I'm looking at it and boom, it just hits me. And I'm thinking, what are the odds that this occurs every single time the trend shifts? And maybe it is noise, but my God, folks, years worth of data, and this happens. I know I'm teasing it a little bit, but also, a great interview with Charlie Kirk yesterday. If you guys did not see that interview, go check it out. It's on Real Clear Politics right now. I shared it on Locals and Twitter and Getter and everywhere. The most detailed 16 minutes on the RFK effect and the West effect ever on a show outside of Inside the Numbers, period. And awesome that it's being circulated like that. All right. But again, share the videos, share far and wide. Don't forget about the public polling project. It's up there. We're doing fairly well on it. It had to be done. The national poll, I'm leaving it up because it had to be done now with the RFK announcement and West moving from green to independent. So we had to move that up. Georgia's still up there as well. If you want to see us get into Georgia, very interested, since Georgia is one of those key states where the RFK effect could matter one way or the other. It's very, very, very important that somebody does look at it, and look at it in the detail that we look at it. All right. Today is Friday the 13th. It's also supposed to be a day of jihad. So before we get into this program and talk about what we're going to talk about, everybody use your brain today a little bit. Be a little bit smarter today. All right. Listen, in my experience, in the post 9/11 world, when they say something, they mean it. All right. So be a little bit careful. I don't know where you live, but if you live in an urban center, keep your eyes open a little bit more. It doesn't even matter where you are. Suburban, rural, doesn't matter. Just keep your eyes open. Make sure you know where your family is at all times. That's sad. But the fact is, just because we're a bigger country, it does not mean that we are not vulnerable to the same forms of attack that we're seeing on the Israelis right now. Our border is just as open, if not worse, honestly. And we even have tunnels, just like that. So just be careful. And we'll talk, if we have time, we'll talk a little bit about the origins of Friday the 13th. Maybe a lot of people don't know, but the King of France owed the Knights Templar a ton of money that they could not pay back. And we can get into who these people are. It's King Philip. And he decided, I'm not going to pay them back. I think they're getting a little bit too powerful. Right? They started as an order that was protecting the pilgrims along the trail to Israel, basically along the path for pilgrims to make their pilgrimage to Israel. They would be attacked by obviously other people of faith. They'd be attacked by criminals. And these were people who were just normies trying to make the pilgrimage to Israel. So the Knights Templar did that, but then they became kind of like a bank. And they were the worst nightmare for the Pope and for the kings of Europe because they started as the little guy. They were just, modest monks, fighting monks, warrior monks. That's what they were. And the system decided they had to go. And that is where we get Friday the 13th from. The betrayal of the Knights Templar, and they were burned at the stake. Many of them were burned at the stake for heresy. And what happened? Fake news. Fake news happened. Nobody was worshiping the head of John the Baptist. There were no silver skulls, three-headed people, all sorts of nonsense. Truth is, the church and the kings couldn't pay them back, and they thought they maybe found holy relics of great value that they were not willing to give up. Anyway, they decided they had to go, and it's one of the most tragic events in Christian history, frankly, if you ask me. Anyway, let's get on to it. And by the way, I alluded to something the other day when we were talking about Columbus Day. All right, but I'm not going to get into it. All right, let's start with the presidential primary because I just want to put a fork in this puppy and go over. We had one more thing. There's two things we put up there we thought you may like. We're going to start doing this for the general election as well. All right, there's the map. Everyone knows and loves the interactive map, right? First of all, I don't know about when you're on a mobile device, but when you're on a desktop or you're on a MacBook or, laptop or any kind, if you have something that's outside of a mouse that you're like hovering over, the warplanes are flying overhead. I'm sorry if you can hear them. And I'm going to scream a little bit louder because of it. If you hover over them first, you'll notice it comes up smaller and it comes up to the top of the screen. Why am I bringing this up? Because we added so much data to the interactive tooltips that some of them are falling off the screen, and people are telling me, hey, it's below, and it's not like the Z-index, you smart people out there who know CSS. The Z-index doesn't cover it. That only happens if you click first. If you hover, right, then it's not going to do that. It's going to come up with a scroll effect. All right, so here, this is a good example of a person right here. All right, let's take this voter right here. All right. There's even instructionals now. Below are detailed responses and demographic data for each interview. This interview was conducted they were reached online, or this person said, hey, I'm going to take the text link and I'm going to click on it. Certain to vote, primary vote, they are for Donald Trump. This person said, and candidate loyalty means what would you do if your candidate for the primary is not the nominee for the party? This person said, I'll write in Donald Trump, damn it. Says the country set it on the wrong track. You notice we now have direction of country in there. We have Biden's approval in there. We're going to add basically everything as time goes on. It's a lot. So bear with us as we add more and more stuff as time goes on. Strongly disapproves of Biden, is a male, 63. He's white, not Hispanic. His ethnicity, which is now in there as well. His ethnicity is English. If he is Hispanic, you'll see whether he's Puerto Rican, Cuban, Mexican, whatever. If this voter was Asian, you'd see whether he's Japanese, Indian, Chinese, Korean, whatever, Vietnamese. Doesn't matter. It's in there now. Super cool. He's an independent, although he sounds a lot like a MAGA Republican. All right, 100% core MAGA, but he's not. He is an independent. Conservative. By the way, we didn't do the leanings, Laura. That's what we didn't do. Yesterday, I was going over this in my head, and I knew we added the Republican archetype. See how it says rep type right there? What that means is if they are Republican, there will be a value there that tells you whether they identify as an America First Republican or as a traditional Republican. Because he's an independent, there's nothing there. And until we figure out the conditional clauses in the code, it's not working quite right. But we're basically doing conditionals for a lot of our audience understands code, so you'll get me when I say this. If if this person says this, then this. All right, well, it's a little bit tricky on this. I'm sure there is a way to do it, and we'll figure it out. But right now, they're just going to be blank, and everyone's going to have it on the table. What we did forget, which I will make sure is in this weekend, is if they are an independent like this gentleman, we will ask them always, do you lean to the right? Do you lean, do your views more align with the Republican Party, the Democratic Party? Are they equally aligned with both parties? Or do you share little in common with either? I don't know this person particularly, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say that he probably said, I share little in common with either. I'm just looking by his general demographics, even though he has a bachelor's degree. He's ideologically conservative, like I said, has a 4-year college degree, makes an income of less than 30 grand, is retired. He's older. That's why he makes that income. Married, domestic partner, right? Yes, he has children. They're all over the age of 18. He is not in the service currently, nor is he a veteran of the service, which that will tell you, by the way, whether he's active duty military or veteran. It'll explicitly tell you. If it says no, it means no. And just before I go back up, question, demo, response, demo, because some of these aren't really questions in the traditional sense of a survey question. They are demographics, right? Vote history is now in the interactive tooltips. Did they vote in 22, 20, 18, and 16? It's a 4-cycle vote history. This guy is a 4 out of 4 voter. So when you hear people, political pundits or political operatives, and you'll see, we're targeting 2 out of 4s. We're targeting our 4 out of 4s. Or when they're talking about early vote, they'll say, our early vote is great, and we still have this many 4 out of 4s for election day. That's what that means. This person has voted in 4 out of the last 4 midterms and everything. All right. So he voted in the midterm election. He voted in presidential election of 20, midterm of 18, 16, the presidential. All right. Look, check it out. There's our social bias indicators, which get lost in the sauce to detect the potential for social bias. We ask participants to indicate how comfortable or uncomfortable they are being truthful about their political beliefs with each group, including during the interview with pollsters. Family, this guy said somewhat comfortable. Friends, somewhat comfortable. Neighbors, somewhat comfortable. Coworkers, somewhat comfortable. This is a strong potential for a social bias. All right. Now, he told us who he was voting for, but he was not strong. I said there's some signal here. Sorry, I should not have said strong. Strangers, he is somewhat uncomfortable talking to strangers and being honest about his political beliefs. And the same is true of pollsters. Okay. So there's a potential issue there. Let me just say this before we move on, because I do think this should be addressed. There didn't really seem to be any social bias in the general election. Not any, but there wasn't a significant social bias like we have seen in 2020 when it comes to the general election. The same is true, on the Democratic side. The reason that's important is because I have been thinking for weeks, and we've been talking about this. Trump is doing so much better right now. According to the RCP averages, Trump takes Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Iowa, Ohio, Florida, North Carolina, and Nevada is really, really close. By the way, I think it's about time, and we'll bring this up a little bit more. I think it's about time for the Rust Belt poll. So, and also in Minnesota, I recognize this. I've seen this before. And this is when a Democrat loses part of their base. I think Minnesota's probably pretty close right now. All right. It's just the dynamic of it, head to head. Maybe it's a little bit tough for Trump or other Republicans to win it. But when you have this stuff going on, a president who's deeply disliked and failing so badly, and you have the Grover Cleveland effect, Minnesota can surprise you. It'll be 12 points, Democratic one year, folks, and then be decided by 3,000 votes. It does this. And I'm telling you, I've seen this before. The year was 2016, right, Laura? I'm like, oh my God, Minnesota's close. I'm going to be completely attacked and belittled because it was like 2.3% or something. It was like Clinton plus 2.3 or 2.4 or something. And we did the article, the write-up on it, Blue State Blues. And I see a lot in other states and other polls, by the way, other people's polling, Spencer's polling. I can see it right now. And I think Minnesota's probably pretty close. But Trump is doing so much better. Is there the potential for social bias, meaning that is it possible Trump is doing even is performing even stronger than these current polls are, despite being ahead nationally and in the electoral college? Um, right now, I don't think there's an argument to be made there for that. There is, however, social bias in the primary, which is weird, and it favors Donald Trump. There are some primary voters, and remember, we're talking about a smaller population. I'm not saying there isn't social bias in the general. I'm just saying I also see it on the Democratic side a little bit. So it's not significant enough as far as how different it is between the parties. It isn't significant enough yet for me to like blow the whistle, but I do see it in the primary, and it's a lot of it as coming from like these non-white new Republican primary voters and white new Republican primary voters who know that there's some kind of stigma for being a new, how could I even put it, Laura? Like a first-time Trump voter, right? There's like a stigma with that, or at least they believe that. So if Donald Trump was to significantly outperform his primary polls, don't be surprised, right? Because he's going to have this rural and urban coalition. He's going to win the burbs too, but in our polling, it shows the burbs. His support in the burbs isn't as strong as in rural and urban America, and he's going to combine those textbook populists. It's like what William Jennings Bryan was trying to do, but never could do. All right, and because of that, it may be a little bit hard to completely gauge his total vote share. So, for instance, Iowa's a little bit different, but let's say we get to South Carolina or Nevada. Yeah, that's a big one. The Silver State's a big one because there are a lot of Hispanics who love Donald Trump. And, the polls say Donald Trump's going to win with like 55 to 60%, and he just blows it away and gets like 65, 70%. That's probably going to happen because there are these first-time Hispanics who are going to be really tough to get. And don't be shocked. South Carolina, same thing. And then definitely when we get into the southern and midwestern states, that if it's still even a primary anymore, then that's definitely going to happen. All right, let's bring it back up. All right, so I just wanted to show you that with the tooltip. Excuse me. Why am I so confident in saying this thing is over here? The lanes are closed. Okay. There's the trend. We went over it the other day. I'm not going to get into it again. By the way, the only thing of note here is that you'll notice Asa Hutchinson has been removed. Him and Doug Burgum and Ryan Binkley and others. Like, look, if you can't get above 1% and stay there, then you're just clouding the damn chart and I'm removing you. You're still on there and I'm tracking your performance, but it just looks so clustered and ugly. This is new. We did this, shared it with locals. Here is why the lanes are closed, folks. I mean, it keeps shit. Donald Trump ticked up a little bit this month from the prior poll we did, although he still was about at 56. It was a little under. All right, but you can see all that's happening here is statistical noise, shuffling the high school or less. Trump is consistently, at 60% or so. But what's going on now is that the college 4-year degree Republican primary vote is now starting to match the some college and 2-year associate degree vote. Some college and associate is typically closer to the high school, GED, or lower. So the fact that, and they are close, 60.1 to 56.1 are 4 points away. What I'm saying here is once you get the 4-year degree, 55.6, now right there. And Trump is even at a majority with the advanced or post-grads. Even if there's wiggle room there still with the advanced degree voter, it's over. The 4-year college degree voter is now with the some college, associate, and high school or less. You're having now 80+% of these people tell us their mind is made up and they're not going to change their mind. This is not like other primaries. That doesn't happen this early. And by the way, it's not that friggin' early anymore. I can't believe we're still hearing people make this argument. It is October 13th, Friday the 13th. The Iowa caucuses are in January. Trump's lead is increasing, not decreasing. We're going to hit the holiday season. Trump is a holiday season campaigner. Everyone else is going to struggle to get oxygen out of the room. There'll be these court issues that are BS that are going to piss off Republican voters. We're going to slide into January. He's, and there's just, the thing is not, it's so ridiculous. We're still talking like this. Nobody's going to have any money. Come on. Look at where Ron DeSantis is, by the way. It is unfair to continue to give Ron DeSantis his runner-up status. The truth is, even in the general, now that Vivek has fallen slightly, it is like the commentary for local supporters I put up the other day. I'm not going to get into it, but because that's for locals, but it is not hard to see Nikki Haley leapfrog Vivek, leapfrog Ron DeSantis, and jump into second place. That absolutely can happen. As you can see, Ron DeSantis's total vote share now is, less than 12 points. The high school or less, once he had that, a chunk of that vote at one point, is now only 8%. His some college associate, the biggest group in the electorate, now down to 12%. 13.5 among 4-year degrees and only 11.6 among advanced and post-grad people. Look, Nikki Haley has about the same number of voters supporting her that have an advanced degree in the primary. Among urban voters, look at what I'm talking about when I'm talking about this urban-rural coalition. Trump is at 51% in the burbs. DeSantis is at 12 and Vivek is at 9. But in urban areas, Trump is at 59. Nobody else even comes remotely close. DeSantis is getting like 11%. Nikki Haley's getting like 8. Trump has 6 and 10 in the urban vote, majority in the suburban vote, and 63% rural. DeSantis now has fallen to 11% among rural voters. Evangelical Trump, 60%, rounding, 59.5. Non-evangelical, 54%. Self-identified Republican, 60%. Self-identified conservative, 60%. Months ago, folks, what did I say about a Republican primary when a candidate starts to get around 60% of self-identified conservatives? That there's no way to beat that. It's not difficult arithmetic. 80% of the electorate will consider themselves conservative in Iowa. Nationally, it'll be somewhere in the 70 to 75% range. And it doesn't matter if you're not getting clobbered among moderates and liberals, if you're not getting clobbered among independents and others. They will not be a large share because so many of these primaries are closed. And by the way, we talked about that. Other polls, I'm not sure they're screaming likely primary voters for eligibility and registration or intent, because you do have time in some of these states to change. If it's a semi-closed or a closed primary, you do have time to change your registration. But they'll still tell the entrance or exit pollster, hey, I'm an independent. I'm telling you, I'm not sure they're doing that. So I'm more than fairly confident. I'm very confident in these numbers. All right. It's already 12:30. Oh my God. There's so much I wanted to go over here. All right. Let's play a clip real quick because I played a clip of Robert Kennedy on Hannity talking about the Second Amendment, talking about some things that, when we're talking about the RFK impact and winning a general election and why Trump is the only Republican in years more decades to carry some of these Rust Belt states that we've been talking about, right? It seems like if you watch somebody like that interview RFK, you'll see that they don't really understand it. And they'll go off on a line of questioning that really hurts their case or hurts their goal. Like this concept that you can only win with those who pass your litmus test. That's fine. But under your definition, under their definitions, Donald Trump would never have come to the Republican Party. J.D. Vance would not be a senator from Ohio. I mean, I can just go on and on. They don't seem to understand mind changing is a good thing. And you have to win over people who once disagreed with you to win an election, a national election. And we played the clip from RFK the other day, and now I'm going to play another one from Hannity. And listen, I'm not getting into whether the guy is like not owning up to some of his quotes. Look past that. I don't care about that crap. And neither, by the way, a lot of voters don't either. But look past that and just listen carefully.
Where if your campaign is principally being run by super PACs, people who can give unlimited amounts of money to your campaign, I don't think that befits the Republican Party. I think we need to be better than that. So, Sean, you and I may have a different view on that. But my view is, if you're making money off your time in government, then I don't think you're fit to be president of the United States. Well, more importantly, though, what's our policy? Stand with our allies while avoiding World War III. And that's where I'm at.
A lot of people don't think you're qualified because you weren't even a Republican or voting Republican until what, 2020?
Well, Sean, I think it depends on what your objectives with this interview are. I voted Libertarian in my first election. I voted Republican in 2020. You're right. I'm not a partisan hack. I come in from the outside.
Forgive you for your screw-up.
I'm an independent-minded patriot who speaks the truth.
It sounds to me like you just want to jump from the private sector yourself, where you made a lot of money. By the way, I applaud capitalism. I applaud successful people.
Sean, I applaud you for being so transparent about your objectives.
I actually think that people work in the defense of our country, in the defense industry, are playing a vital role for the cause of freedom. So I don't really call it a corrupting influence or suggest that somehow that's a corrupting influence. I actually like the experience that goes along with working for defense contractors. But I've got to listen.
One of the things I loved about that interview with Tucker, was we were actually able to have a thoughtful conversation and go deep into issues rather than this kind of political gotcha.
The point is this:
good. People should watch the actual interview for what I actually said.
Yeah, I have nothing but nice things to say. But here's your problem:
people should watch it.
You go on these shows, people quote your exact words, and you deny your own words. And I'm saying if you're going to be a presidential candidate and you're going to spend, I'm going to give you your exact words, either own it
Sean, you have been sitting here for years talking about the fake news media.
But you played this all the time.
I'm enjoying this. You have been laughing about the fake news media how many times for the last several years, and now you're buying the mainstream media narrative when you know how corrupt it is.
I am following you. I am quoting your exact words.
Are a problem.
Did I not quote your exact words?
About Azerbaijan and Armenia.
Did I or did I not quote your exact words? Did I quote your exact words?
And Armenia, absolutely.
Thank you.
About Azerbaijan, yes, you did.
Time to go.
About a different topic, Azerbaijan, where people should actually get their own information rather than filtered through centralized media.
I think it's asinine to think somebody that worked in the defense industry should not be qualified to be president. I think people that never held public office, like you, they're not qualified to be president. Anyway, we'll come back. We'll continue. Secretary of State, former.
Look, you can be honest and say, I don't like Vivek, but this is the same old crap. Right? This is what I love about the audience. They get it. They really, I'm watching the comments across all the boards, and YouTube's just easier to put up, but I'm watching comments across the board, and you guys totally get it. I played the clip for a reason, and you guys got the reason. There's so much to unpack there. First and foremost, incredibly unprofessional by his staff. Laura's in the other room. That's TV. That's not a podcast. That's not Inside the Numbers. That's not Laura popping in and saying something or yelling at me from the other room, which is funny. That's TV. And he's interviewing a presidential candidate on primetime television, and you have his staff making noises, laughing, screaming. Look, I don't care. I can attack who I want because between him and the one who comes before, I have no intention of getting on his or her show ever. I just don't care. Once Tucker left Fox, I was like, I don't care. By the way, episode 400. Episode 400 of Inside the Numbers got more views than his television program. So, this, or it's on its way to anyway. So I can be honest because I'm not trying to get a plug on his show ever one day, So the fact is, this is par for the course for Sean Hannity. He's been going on with the unprofessionalism aside. That's the first thing that jumped out at me. Secondly, you don't want successful businessmen running for office. If that didn't jump out at you, then what was Hannity doing supposedly supporting Donald Trump in 2016 and 2015. All right. What was he doing? Some people think, and you think, Sean, you're not qualified because you never held office. And then he went on to say the most rhino thing you could ever hear a supposedly conservative host say on a show or a talk show or a radio, whatever. Some people think you don't have experience because you've never been in the public sector. In other words, a career politician. Sean just expressed his preference for career politicians over people who have private sector experience. He then went on to defend the military-industrial complex. He thinks he knows good people in the military-industrial complex. I probably know 10 times the number of people than Sean Hannity knows in the defense industry. And I'll tell you right now, one of them was even a member of our family for a long time, Laura. I'm not going to get it, We've gone to the parties. We've gone to their galas. We've gone to their weddings. We've gone to their celebrations when they celebrate a new, forget about multi-billion dollar deal with the U.S. government. There is absolutely nothing about that crew that I want to infect the policy making of my government, especially in the realm of foreign policy. They have a vested interest in war. Business is good when people are dying, so they can have their home movie theaters, their collectible cars, their multi-million-dollar homes in Maryland and Northern Virginia. I'm stunned that anybody who calls themselves a conservative would applaud the experience or applaud the virtues and the values of somebody from the defense industry. Some of them I think are absolutely cool, very interesting people. But do I want them making decisions on whether or not to attack a foreign nation, on whether or not to hold certain positions or get into certain coalitions against other countries? Like, they shouldn't be involved in any of that. That's a separation of powers issue. God, I hope that's Laura. That's a separation of powers issue, and we don't want those things overlapping. That's like saying, K Street is so super experienced that we should have K Street basically filling the halls of Congress. Like, what the hell is wrong with you? You're talking about an industry that's among the worst on K Street. They're special interest rent seekers, and they have a vested interest in death. It's all about the dollar bill, y'all. Totally right, Laura. Morality has nothing to do with their decision making. Neither does smart policy, which is even more important. Because for those of you who are in the Locals Book Club, you know how I feel about this. Morality doesn't really have a place in foreign policy. I'm a realist, 100%. Mostly an offensive realist. Moralism clouds judgment. If you put moralism into foreign policy, then you probably were horribly heartbroken and outraged when you heard, I was in the hospital and the Iraqi soldiers came in and threw babies out of incubators. They left them to die on the cold floor. Like, that was a lie. Put on, by the way, by your friends at the defense industry and the royal family. That woman was the daughter to the Kuwaiti ambassador. She was totally full of crap. They give you her first name, omitted her second name, and she told a story that was not true. So excuse me, Piers Morgan, when governments say that babies' heads were cut off, of course you can be outraged that babies' heads being cut off, at the same time ask for evidence of that accusation. Because I'm old enough to remember that, and so are you, Piers. So, I guess I'd rather be an evil bastard than a stupid one who falls for the same nonsense every day. Getting back to the Vivek, so then he attacks his vote history. And this is really what I want to talk about. He attacks his vote history. J.D. Vance is one of the most MAGA, pro-America first, if not the most senator in the U.S. Senate. He is, if not the most, one of the most representative lawmakers in Washington, D.C., meaning he is voting and advocating for policy that his voters and constituents want him to advocate and vote for. That doesn't happen often, sadly. That's what the fight about the speakership really is all about, by the way, which we'll get into in a little bit. Yet J.D. Vance couldn't stand Donald Trump. If you were around the clock 7 years, and he's owned up to it. And you know what? This is when the guy really won me over. When you can walk up to the big man and tell him, yeah, I said those things. You got a pair on you, boy. But he owned it. And he said, I was wrong. I was wrong. Converts to America First are among the most solid. A lot of so-called conservatives, like him, like Mr. Hannity, who then claim to be America First, are the biggest traitors. You need converts to win. Donald Trump didn't win Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan for the first time in decades for any Republican because he was a textbook conservative who won over his own base and then made an appeal to the middle. No, he didn't. He made an appeal to what was on the left and brought them into the middle. One-time, two-time Obama voters. Mitt Romney is what you get when you try to win an election like Sean Hannity is advocating for. And others, it's not just Sean. All of Crew's crew, everyone who supports Ron DeSantis, everyone who advises Ron DeSantis, what you're looking for is not good enough. Mitt Romney tried it as well. Mitt Romney was able to win some. He did. He closed the gap in Iowa, 6 points. He closed the gap in Michigan, a couple points. He closed the gap in Pennsylvania, about 4 points, if I remember correctly. It wasn't enough. You needed the 2 out of 2 Obama voters to win, or would be 2 out of 2. How did Trump turn Iowa in 2008, went for Barack Obama by 12 points. Then Mitt Romney did close the gap, but it still went for Obama by 6. It is one of the most interesting things to look at. And then I'll get into the non-white because I do want to just bring this up because this has to do with the white vote share. This concept that he would ever even be bleeding, hemorrhaging white voters is insane. Emerson poll just came out, by the way. Emerson showed a very close race in Iowa that Donald Trump actually could have lost, in fact. And now they're Trump plus, what was it? It's like 10 or 13 or something like that. I think it's 10. They had a 13 plus 13 a couple of months ago. But let me stop sharing that one and bring up this one real quick, and then we'll go to another. Because we're talking about this 2-time Obama voter. It's going to matter when we continuously talk about the RFK effect. When you look at Iowa, Iowa has 31 pivot counties. It is the most out of any state, even though it's super white. It is the most out of any state in the country. Pivot counties, meaning those who hung with Barack Obama twice and then voted for Donald Trump in 2020 and voted for Donald Trump in 2016. This is from 2008 to 2020. In 2020, Donald Trump didn't lose a single pivot county. And in fact, if you go through this, what you will see is that he actually won more shares of some of those crucial counties and lost some here and there. But you'll see that for the most part, his margin increased. Louisiana County, it's a great example. Obama had won that 4.3%. Obama hung on to it against Mitt Romney. Trump won it by 28.4 in 16, and then he won it by 33.3. There are others that are just enormous shifts. Worth County, 22.4 in 08 for Obama, 14.5 for Obama in 2012. Then Trump wins it by almost 22 points, 21.7. Then 2020 comes along, he wins it by 25.9. Ditto, Union County. Winneshack, same thing. That was a plus 23 Obama County. He eked it out in 16 against Clinton, and then he won it by 5 points. There are some real doozies in here, folks, if you look. Clinton County's a big one. Trump won it by 5 against Clinton. It went for Obama by 23 points both times. Both times. And then in 2020, Trump won it by over 10. That's an astonishing. Chickasaw, plus 20 Obama County. Mitt Romney took 9 points off of that, but it wasn't enough. Trump wins it by 23 and then 31. You need these voters. Why is it so foolish to have a conversation like that with Vivek for your own personal political gain? We have talked about Vivek not breaking into enough of those, stalwart Republican demographics. And that's why he stalled at 11 and now fell again in our poll to 7. But if you look at who he is getting, he's getting some of these new voters that damn sure Republicans want and need. And he's getting some of these, MAGA votes that are just kind of done with Donald Trump, a little bit more educated ones that did like Trump, but think, you know what, if I have to, I'll try to move on. All right, so which brings up this point. Let's play this clip. All right, you don't want to use the traditional Republican nonsense and isolate these people. I don't think Sean and others truly get this. So I'm going to say this as clear as I could possibly say it. The Republican Party is a party of losers. Without Donald Trump, they'd be nothing. They probably wouldn't even exist today if Donald Trump didn't come around in 2015. They would probably be dissolved, went the way of the Whigs. I don't know what your talk show would even have content in right now. I honestly don't. And you'd be struggling to figure out who you are and what you represent. The only way forward is by embracing some of these unconventional candidates because they're unconventional to you because you're the past. We look at who is America first when we look at these primary polls. DeSantis, for instance, almost all of his vote left is never Trump vote. 10% says they're American first, and they'll slip off to Trump. They'll continue. Every time he falls, those who the share that says they were America first falls more. They go to Trump. And those that are just like never Trump that were with him bail off to like Nikki Haley or something. Nikki Haley took some from Pence too. She took a little bit from Vivek, but just a little bit. It came from Pence. It came from DeSantis. They're all older. Somebody had said in the comments, who watches Sean? The older rhino watches Sean. That's certainly the only one he really has influence over at this point. There are MAGA people who still listen to him for the sake of listening to him. I mean, that's true. The most America First Republican primary voter is a younger Hispanic. We went over it the other day. That's the future, too. Somebody said he looks old. Well, that's probably a good thing because Republicans are going to need new faces if they want to maintain these people. Keep that in mind and keep in mind what Charlie and I talked about yesterday, what we talked about on Inside the Numbers Wednesday about the RFK effect. And I'm going to play this clip in almost its entirety. I'll be interrupting to talk about things, but it's exactly what Charlie and I were talking about. Exactly.
We're fucking powerless in this thing.
I'm sorry. I should have told you. Obviously, it's Joe Rogan. Warning, explicit language. warning explicit language.
And it seems like the elections
You're
are
welcome, Laura.
they do their very best to make sure that they win, whether or not it's legal or illegal. What they're doing, like what they're doing with Robert Kennedy Jr.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
did he become an independent yet? I heard
he's going to. I think.
Yeah,
I don't know. He said he's got some announcement, and most people are speculating.
right.
But if you're an independent, are you can you win?
No, see, that's why I think that would hurt
No.
him. I'm like, you know,
Not Robert
we've
Kennedy.
all seen in the past, even like what was it, Ross Perot? We're like, oh my god, he might have a chance, and then he's like 2% or something.
Well,
It
he
seems
got
to
a
me
little bit
like
more
the
than
more
that.
time goes
He got
on,
19.
Trump is a
And that's
shoe
it.
in.
Second time he did.
Mm-hmm.
Got 9.
It seems like if this shit keeps getting crazier and crazier, there's going to be a lot of liberals that are crazier and crazier. There's going to be getting crazier and crazier. It seems like if this shit keeps getting crazier and crazier, there's going to be a lot of liberals that'll vote for him.
I'm sorry, I got to go back more because I was talking over the guy.
It's like if this shit keeps getting crazier and crazier, there's going to be a lot of liberals that'll vote for him. He was the one in the beginning. We got to stop people from dying. Like, do you want Ukraine to win this war? Remember that conversation? He's like, I want people to stop dying, like, which is the best answer any politician has ever given. And the way he said it. See if you can find that thing, though. We was talking about Millie. We was talking.
All right, listen to when I was talking. I didn't go back far enough. He said, this is looking like a Trump shoe-in because there are just going to be people who never vote Republican who are going to vote for Donald Trump because he's giving the best answers. He is being the most serious, which is just nuts. He's giving the most common sense kind of thing. I mean, that's where Joe is going to go with this. All right. But yeah, I mean, even with RFK though, just listen to what he will reflexively want to keep going back to voting for RFK. All right. He'll reflexively want to do that. The question remains though, however, listen to you can see him kind of struggling with himself. He'll talk about it in a second. He'll bring up that, I mean, anybody can't win. They brought that up before. And it's like, well, that's going to be the question a lot of these people ask themselves. That 30% we talked about on Wednesday. How much of that will ultimately go to Trump anyway? Because people are going to say, listen, he can't win. And I might as well go with someone who can win. All right.
Talking about leaving stuff over in Afghanistan. I might have saved it. Because it was so funny, like the way he was saying it. You see the thing that he was saying about the electric tanks?
No.
That's hilarious too. He was talking about they're going to make electric tanks. They're going to be great for the environment. They're not going to work well. They're not going to run long. They're going to blow the fucking shit out of everything.
It's going to be no
but it's going to be good for the environment.
Yo, that for people who don't know this or haven't heard Trump say this is the kind of thing that it is going to earn Trump these votes, right? So these people generally, you know what? They want a green environment. I'm not sure who does. I consider myself a pro-environment person. I'm just not a climate alarmist. And there's a difference. But I'm a fisherman, right? I love the outdoors. I'm a survivalist. Laura and I love to, just challenge ourselves. What could we endure? What could we do? Could you live without a fire starter out there in the woods? Right? Stupid stuff we do, right? Make sure water would be purified. How long can you take being out there, being disgusting? Which was a big thing for me, in the Army. That's what it was all about for me, just proving that I can endure that others can, when others cannot. So you can't do that in an urban center or the world that liberals want, which is like we're all literally hived on top of each other. And most normies don't want that crap, but they want a green environment and they get it. But then Trump talks to them about this in a common sense way where these normies are just like, well, this is ridiculous. I mean, the solar or the electric warcraft planes, the plans they brought to Trump. Listen to the man tell that story. It's hilarious. The tanks that Joe was bringing up right now, I've heard him say this twice, and he's going to bring up one, which is when he was doing it in a more stand-up kind of routine. It was more private comments. Hilarious. But he also, when he was in Anaheim talking to, I believe it was Anaheim. Anyway, when he went to talk to the California Republican Party, his speech, which, by the way, it kept me company when I was doing the road trip to Temple, which was great because it was a long speech and it helped me. It was like 2 hours. And he's going on and on about, Yo, yeah, we're so pro-environment, it's going to blow the shit out of everything. But, sir, don't worry, it'll be good for the environment. It's like, sir, the tank batteries died. It's not worth bringing them home. Just leave them there. You know, I mean, he's not making it up either, which is hilarious. And he delivers it like a stand-up comedian because it's so ridiculous. And he's good at it. He has that talent. And that is the stuff that, when we're talking about these people that Sean Hannity just doesn't think exist. Sean thinks talking about the environment like AOC, or attacking AOC over the Green New Deal or something is how you appeal to these people. They couldn't give a damn about the rhetoric that Sean Hannity uses to talk about climate alarmists. They don't care about it. Mark Levin, no offense to any of them, just saying, they're not a green cause, they're a red cause. Nobody cares. Nobody even knows what you're talking about, dude. You're 80 years old. They weren't alive during that time. Nobody knows the Red Scare. To these guys, and listen, look at Joe's face right now. To these guys, it's just funny as hell that it's so obvious you can't have a solar-powered tank. And it's a ridiculous concept anyway, or at least not right now, but it's a ridiculous concept anyway because you're talking about a weapon of war. It is a machine of war. It's going to destroy everything. And you care about whether or not it's got carbon emissions? It's a ludicrous proposition. And the planes are hilarious. Trump is like, yeah, look at it, supersonic, and we're out of juice. We fell from the sky. I mean, it's just funny as hell.
And the way he said it was like a guy doing stand-up.
That's funny.
He gets it. He pulls it on
this bookmark.
Yeah, electric tanks does not seem like a good idea. I'm out of charge.
Yeah, it sounds insane. I don't know where I saved it, Jamie. See if can you find it?
I mean, I'm looking. There's a bunch of stuff about it. So I'm trying to find
It's him talking about. He goes, "That's when I knew this guy's a fucking idiot."
Yeah.
That's what he says.
I just found the quote, not the video.
But the way he says it, it's like he sets it up, like he's setting up a punchline. Like he sets up the story. Sir, it'll be cheaper to leave them over. He's like, "Oh, that's what I realized. That guy's a fucking idiot." To see a guy like him talk like that.
All right, let's fast forward. See if
Find it.
Oh, you got it?
Leave it there.
Here we go.
So they can have it, than it is to fill it up with a half a tank of gas and fly it into Pakistan or fly it back to our country. You think, yes, sir, we think it's cheaper, sir. That's when I realized he was a fucking idiot.
I'm sorry.
Good timing.
And he waits.
He even holds.
Yeah.
Look, he's holding the laughter.
Hold for laughter, please. Yeah.
Fucking guy.
All right, now listen.
Why don't you look into Jesus?
He's always been an entertainer, though. I mean, I was
a funny
one
guy.
of the biggest Apprentice fans ever. I had all his books because of the Apprentice.
He's always a great guest on talk shows.
Yeah,
great guest on Howard Stern show. It's just, do you want that running the country? Well, do you want what you have running the country either? No, what you want is peace. And how the fuck do you get it? And I don't even know if he can. I don't know.
Yeah,
if
I mean,
can
see,
do
that's
it.
that's the problem I think a lot of people had with him, right? Like he was the opposite of peace. He just
Listen,
divided everybody.
He definitely divided everybody's opinions in this country, but a lot of it was based on bullshit.
Here we go.
A lot of it was the Russia collusion stuff, where people really did legitimately believe that Russia had put him into power, and like there was people that were thinking he was a Russian agent, and it was all horseshit. But they can say stuff like that, and they can, they can get you believing. They can get you believing. And a lot of people, they just surface level everything. They don't look into any of it. They surface level everything.
Okay. And I hope he doesn't mind me doing this. But Seth, I hope you don't mind this, Seth. And you're probably listening, so I'm sorry if you do. But, Seth Levy and I were having this conversation yesterday in messaging each other that maybe, and after the break, we're going to talk about the trend. Maybe what really happened here is that these people thought of him the way that you just heard Joe and his guests thinking of him, but then they carpet bombed with all this BS, which a lot of people believed. And now it's like the mask is off. Now the emperor has no clothes. Now the media is just like, dude, Russia was fake. All right. And I was going to play it a little bit more because I was going to bring up the Steve Scalise thing. He directly talks about Scalise thing, and we could bring that up to talk about the speaker later. So maybe I'll hold that clip. But now that we're seeing the trends that we're seeing, they're long-term trends, but there's something post 20 that jumps right out at me. And so we'll save that for after, because I want to show you the graphs. Well, I want to show you them now, but unfortunately, we're going to have to pause for a quick break. But yeah, keep all of that in mind when we do this and when we show you these graphs, because it's like now all of a sudden these people just don't seem to care, and you're having him increase his support with some of these people that maybe they're just returns. And I keep thinking, what do I mean by that? Maybe they're just people who kind of dug the guy before, but then when he ran, the media carpet bombed, like Joe said, and now everyone knows it's BS. Everyone knows it's BS, and everyone thinks he was just a better president. That's what we're seeing in the polls. Every poll, not just ours, NBC, ABC, Fox News, everyone, Gallup, everybody. That Marquette is off in left field. But when you look at the issues, who do you trust? Who did a better job on these issues? Folks, there's one issue where Donald Trump is behind Joe Biden. Even on Social Security and Medicare, they're separated by 3 points. Inflation, creating jobs, being a steward of the economy, even abortion and the environment is the 2 issues that Joe Biden was ahead on, but it wasn't that far apart. Not like the other candidates, by the way. It wasn't that far apart at all, because people are now just comparing, and that is the common theme is young people, non-white people, all these people who he was struggling with that before, actually kind of people 30s, 39s. Joe Rogan and I believe both of us are in our early 40s. And if you're not, Joe, I'm sorry for putting you that old, but I am. But we remember Trump in a different way before he ran for president. Everyone thought it was kind of cool. He was on all these rap songs. He would make cameos in movies, and people loved him. The Apprentice, right? And then they scorched earth him. And I think back to John Podesta's email. Laura, you remember the one, because in 2016, Laura and I were thinking about this a lot. This guy emailed, and he was from the entertainment industry and academia and entertainment or something, which is weird. I remember it was weird. But he emails John Podesta and he's like, what are you doing about Trump? What are you doing about Trump? This guy is going to kill us with young people and non-whites. And Podesta is like, yeah, we're going to do what we do. And this guy was very clearly not confident in that strategy. And ultimately, I think a lot of it did work. So when we look at these trends after the break, think about all of this. And, maybe it's just possible that he just reformed his image with some of those people. And that's what's going on here. I don't know. But we saw him win young people in Iowa. He won young people in Ohio in 2016. He did. Go look it up. 18 to 29. He won them. So there were some parts of the country where he did do well with young people when he wasn't supposed to. And then throughout his presidency, what was a lot of these are surface level people. Joe was right about that 100%. These are surface level people. And for years, a lot of them thought a lot of this crap was just true. And then it wasn't. And now you have Joe Biden, all objective takes here, a disastrous presidency, a very unpopular one. The world's on fire. These people just wanted peace. What we have now is real on fire. That's a real fire burning. Under Donald Trump, it was they were like pulling the fire alarm when there was no fire every day. And that disturbed a lot of people. Remember the seasick voter, folks. Remember the seasick voter. All right, let me shut up. Let's talk about this. All right. Look, folks, day of jihad. Authorities do warn and are concerned about extremists targeting the power grid, but there's so much more that can happen other than that. If just 9 key substations were to go down, it would knock out power across the country for up to 18 months. Who's really prepared for that? If you're being honest with yourself, who's really prepared for it? Most people's lives are frozen in time the moment those lights go out. That's why you need a solar generator, even if you have a propane or, like us, natural gas generator. And right now you can get one if you go to 4patriots.com and check out the new Patriot Power Generator 2000X. It's portable, it's stackable, so you can make it even stronger. But even alone, it's still strong enough to power your phones, medical devices for you and your loved ones, even appliances like your refrigerator. Again, check it out. It's 4patriots.com. Use the promo code TPP10 at checkout to get yourself 10% off. But they do have other deals right now where you can stack that code. The code is good for your first purchase only. It'll work on anything, but make it count. And something like the Patriot Power Generator 2000X. Make it count. And with the deals they have right now, like I said, it is stackable. So if you're going to use your one-time code, that would be the way to do it. Save yourself hundreds and hundreds of dollars. One more time, 4patriots.com. Use the promo code TPP10 at checkout. All right. So let's get back to not Joe yet. We're not going to do that. Let's go first to... Man, now I want the actual link. I don't want my back end that everybody else can see. I want the link. There we go. All right. I'm doing this the other day. I'm doing it for locals, and bang, it hits me. All right. It just hits me. And maybe I'll turn out to be wrong. But I could see it for the first time ever. And I'm going through it, and I'm thinking to myself, which way is there some ways to present the data that is just dramatizing it, and it's not that significant. So I'm going through all these different iterations, lines, curved, right? Natural, steps, before, after. I'm doing all these different iterations of displaying the data, arrows, bars, right? Which showing you shifts over time. I even separated the Hispanic vote and the black vote and plotted them on cluster charts, bar charts, arrow charts, just to see them on their own. And eventually I settled on this one because I think it shows both in one. And it gives you an idea of what I'm talking about here. This is not stacked. A lot of area charts are stacked because I wanted you to see the real value for each. I can't stress this enough. There was a lot of talk about Trump's non-white vote in 2016. There was a lot of talk about Trump's non-white vote leading up and then going into 2020. And there's a lot of talk of it now. One thing immediately off the bat is that the people who argue this is all of a sudden coming out of nowhere, it's not. It's very, very, very clearly a long-term trend. This is People's Pundits poll, well, really, People's Big Data Polls polling, whether it was for the People's Pundit, the Public Polling Project, the Epoch Times, whatever. This is our polling all the way dating back to the final poll before 2016. All right. We are not one of those pollsters who have overestimated Donald Trump's non-white vote share. There have been others. I don't need to name them, and I'm not going to do it. But we are not one of them. Remember this when we're going over this, take into context some of the stuff we were talking about with Joe Rogan. And then also, I just want to say this. The New York Times isn't either. The New York Times only had Trump's black vote share in 2020 at 4%. Now, by the way, it won more than double that. Now, they have it at 12. We have it higher, but we were also closer in 2020 to his actual vote. If you believe the co-op project, the validated voter co-op project post-election, Trump got a little over 8%. If you believe Edison Research, Trump got 12%. That's, I'm going to show you in a second. This is 2020 I'm talking about. That's what we found going into 2020. So let's go all the way back, though, and you'll see. Hispanic vote share in our polling. Final day. Make up your mind, decide. The election is tomorrow. 29.8%. That's it. That's all we had, Trump winning of the Hispanic vote. Better than Mitt Romney. Marginally better than Mitt Romney. And especially in key areas like Florida, Nevada, Arizona, Texas. But not national and not widespread. Marginally better than Mitt Romney, who I think got, what did Mitt Romney get? 25 or something? 27? And Trump wound up getting, I believe, 30 or 31%. 31, I think. I'd have to go back and look at Roper. Black vote share, we had Trump at 8.1. That's it. That's all. Going into the 2020 election, Hispanic vote, is that the right one, though? I don't know why it's not. Oh, I didn't put the point in. You could just see the step, but you could see he increased a little bit before 2020. But again, what happened? Before 2020, he did increase his support with non-white vote, and then it hung and it was kind of flat, but it's an overall trend upwards, but it was kind of flat, right? Black vote share going into 2020, 12.3. Edison Research, 12 on the dot. Again, the co-op project is lower than that, a little over 8. Nevertheless, obviously an increase. He doubled his support with black women, more than doubled his support with black women, and he doubled his support with black men. Right? And black men are less than black women in the electorate. Sometimes they make up 4%. Black women make up 8. Altogether, they're about 12. 2016, they made up 5%. Black women made up 7, and it was 12% overall. I want to say it was 13% in 2020, actually, and it was like black men 4 or 5, and women not 9. I think it was 8 or 9, something like that. But black women are more of the vote than black men. His Hispanic vote, we had him 32.7. That's about. The exit polls showed him where they have him at, and actually, let me check that out. National results. If you believe Edison, Trump was at. If you believe Edison, that is, he got 32, and we had him at 32.7. It doesn't get much closer than this. Again, an increase, but one that was in areas more widespread than 2016, for sure, more widespread, but in areas where he really needed to do better. Clark County was where I would say he fell short. Really romped it in places like Florida and Texas. All right. And he did actually, compared to other Republicans, he did very well in Arizona. All right. Even though he lost that state, supposedly, he did very, very well in Arizona. All right. So this is what we're seeing, a modest but steady increase in Trump's non-white vote share. And that little triangle stands for Delta, okay? Between November of 2016 and November of 2020, the increase in his non-white vote share was marginal, but significant. But it's smaller than the change in his non-white vote share rose between 2020 and now. That's why I'm showing you both deltas right there for each voting group. All right, before we get into them fully, which you can see up on the screen, before we get into them, this is what I want to talk about here. Whether we're using steps, whether we're using bar charts, arrow graphs, whatever it may be, lines, it doesn't matter. Steps, lines, whatever. Areas. What you see is there are periods from 2020 to now when, and even, by the way, there's just less of them because we polled less, but you can see it from 2016 to 2020 too. There'd be this spike. You guys ever read The Crisis in Leviathan by Robert Higgs? This is what it reminded me of. The graphs that Robert Higgs puts out in his book, seminal work, The Crisis in Leviathan, which argues that when government grows, it is during a crisis, by the way, and you will see a spike in the size and scope of government. And then after the crisis is over, it recedes, sometimes even falls briefly to prior lows, but again, shoots right back up. And normally those spikes are preceded by an acceleration in the upward trend. All right. That's what I see here with Trump's non-white vote share. There are these periods where there are spikes that look like statistical noise and they're abnormal. And then it recedes. But those spikes always predate an acceleration in the rise in his support with non-white voters. The higher, the higher the spike, the steeper the drop will be shortly after, but then the faster the acceleration in the mid to long term is. It's kind of like a recession. When you have a super, super deep recession, the bounce back is much stronger, much faster than when you have a not so deep recession. That's what's happening here. And what are the odds that this is just statistical noise? And every time we see these steep increases, and by the way, the black vote share does the same. Let me move the cursor. It does the same, which made me think at first it is just, impossible. It's statistical noise, but it's not. I don't think it is. Why? Because there's just so many data points. It's years worth of data. Years. You're bound to get noise here and there, but if it was noise, we would see the spikes. Then we would see, a receding of support, and we would not see the acceleration in the mid to long term after that spike occurred. It's like this giant, and again, sampling errors for subgroups are higher. So it's like this giant revelation happens, then some people battle with it, but then over time, little by little, he just wins more and more. Over time, fewer and fewer people go back to the Democrat. It doesn't matter if it's Hillary Clinton, doesn't matter if it's Joe Biden. This is specific to Trump. And another reason why it's not noise is because, especially in the last year, we have a ton of other data about other Republican candidates. And this doesn't happen with them. With them, they are largely, when it comes to black voters, a flat line at 8%, 4 to 8%. With Hispanic voters, they are largely a flat line between 25 and 31, 32%. That's it. It's flat. It goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down, but there's no trend. With Trump, it's different. Let's look here. So we went into 2020, all right? And then after 2020, let's say November of 2021, all right? A year after Joe Biden's presidency. You have several people going, oh boy, I screwed up, right? And then you get a spike, and look, I mean, when that spike happens, what happened? An acceleration in the rise of his support, and then we get another spike, 38.1% in March of 2022. By the way, you get a same spike here with black vote share. Doesn't anybody find this funny? 19.9%, which I said at the time, oh, that's crazy. And both recede later. Hispanic vote goes down to 35.1, but it doesn't return to its prior level. It recedes, but it does not return. Only once does it return. Same thing for the black vote share. All right. And then it recedes in the black vote share to 17. Then we get that accelerated increase, and now we're up to 36.3 with Hispanics, and we're up to 19.3 with black voters. All right. There's a spike. And it pops back down again with black voters. You can see it here, back to 16.7, but then the steps continue. And for now, 3 straight months, he's been just under 20%. 18%, 19%, 19%. Next month or next poll we do, it'll be interesting to see whether there's any receding or it spikes again. If it spikes again, Democrats have, first of all, if it doesn't recede, Democrats have a problem, a big problem. Because this is Trump related. This is not Biden related. This isn't Newsom related. This isn't Hillary Clinton related. This is something that's been going on with Donald Trump for years. All right. So if it doesn't recede, they have a big problem. If it does, but then there's a spike again, we'd have to figure out and reevaluate. But if it continues that long-term acceleration, this is a problem. I wonder where the cap is. I don't know. But you could see the recession here with Hispanics. When it spiked to 40%, it receded again at 36.8 and then 32.3, almost to where it normally is. But again, never back down to the original. And now we have this massive spike that mirrors Fox News, mirrors ABC, actually ABC is even higher, mirrors others, when we're the ones who have been more moderate with his increased vote share with Hispanics. We can see it, but we just didn't think it was as big as some others had it. We're still below Fox News, but 42% with 10, 12, 13% of Hispanics still undecided. Donald Trump, with a third-party candidate in the race, Donald Trump could carry the Hispanic vote. He could get, even just against Biden head-to-head, he could get within single digits. This is crazy. Another thing that jumped right out at me is when I went back and looked at Florida, it looked like Miami. Said to Laura yesterday, I'm like, oh my God, this looks like what happened in Miami, which we settled, by the way, in the 40s, but not the high 40s. Why? Because some of those some of those undecideds who told us in the Florida poll, yeah, I'm still undecided, obviously did vote for Donald Trump. So it wasn't 42%, it was 46%. So don't tell me this isn't real. This shit is real. I know we got to leave some time for questions. So I'm going to leave that up, though, so people can kind of ponder this. This would not be, the higher the highs, the lower the lows, snowman, higher highs, higher lows. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like, it reminds me of a recession, it's kind of doing that, and which is crazy. Ooh, ideas, not money. What can be done in blue states like Illinois to grow the GOP to win, I know what you mean, though, to win more House seats? That's a great question. I was actually discussing this with somebody yesterday, and there is a lot of opportunity in Illinois. How could you do it? The same way that I have been advocating people do it in other Rust Belt states. There is an orphan population that Republicans have not reached out to. Democrats have a lot of money. They spend a ton of money. Even on state assembly seats, they spend a fortune. On state Senate seats, state assembly seats, they just have what someone told me seemed like an infinite amount of money. But it doesn't mean, first of all, after going over what I've been going over, it's funny you ask about Illinois because I'm kind of digging into that now. It wouldn't take as much money as people think. After 2016, I thought Republicans had a fantastic opportunity in Illinois to make some gains, and they didn't do it. It's like there's both of those between Illinois and California, two states that used to be big Republican vote centers, big electoral college until Kennedy, but then that's different. Then Nixon had his revenge. Even with the Windy City voting Democratic, it doesn't matter. DePage used to have a ton of Republican votes. There are still votes there. You have to, as we said yesterday, it's a process. You have to do the work that's not sexy, plant those seeds and go and harvest. Take your time. Democrats didn't do it over the course of one election cycle. There's a lot of opportunity in Illinois. And in 2022, I don't like the bad candidate narrative in 2022, but I will say this, and I don't even think Trump endorsed her, but in that area, there were some bad candidates. Not because they were Trumpers or aligned themselves with America First, not at all. Because they thought running like a celebrity kind of campaign was going to be the way forward. They didn't realize, you're going to raise $2.5 million. Some of that should probably go to voter registration. What the hell are you doing? Just having fun, hanging out, not even being there. In one district in particular, I'm pretty confident that a candidate that lost the primary last time, who would have been a stronger candidate, is going to win it this time, and he'll do better. Keep hearing that Democrats are worried about Virginia being up for grabs. Butch, if this free fall continues, then it would put us in at least very close territory. I mean, remember, we could not call Virginia for a long time. In 2016, Hillary Clinton ultimately did win it by, decent margin, but Virginia has a way of, just with third parties on the ballot, it could get uncomfortably close for Democrats. Same thing with like Minnesota and states like New Mexico. If Biden's young vote is going to collapse the way it has been collapsing, and for those of you who didn't notice, Trump's doing so strong with 18 to 24 that he eclipses Biden's lead with 25 to 29s. So the 18 to 29 crowd, Trump actually has a tiny lead in. It's not that his support, because I know some people immediately pointed that out. He's got Trump leading with young people. Yeah, moron, everyone has Trump leading with young people at this point. And the reason is Biden's young vote share has collapsed. Now, do I think Trump's going to carry 18 to 29-year-olds with 40% of the vote? No, but if the 18.5% who say they're going for third party and ultimately go back to Biden, even mostly, then you're talking about a single-digit win for Joe Biden, and that could happen with a third-party candidate on the ballot. It's like these people have never studied the impact Ross Perot had on George Herbert Walker Bush's vote share. Huge Republican demographics went to Bill Clinton because Ross Perot took too much. There are other things happening that for some reason nobody wants to talk about. Super seniors are still slightly for Joe Biden by a few points. Trump carries the 65 to 74s. But the 65 plus is close. It's only Trump plus 2. The New York Times had Biden plus 2, by the way. So we're both seeing it. It's because the super seniors are, there's something going on there. We talked about this in 2022. Still terrified from COVID? I don't know. But yeah, Butch, Trump is now ahead in Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and nationally. Florida's not even close. Folks, Florida's not close. Trump is going to win Florida overwhelmingly. So that's when you have to start worrying about states like Virginia, Minnesota, New Hampshire, even though I think Biden probably get out in New Hampshire. Nevada, I see the CNN poll. I'll tell you right now, I think Trump takes Nevada right now. I do. By the way, I keep forgetting to reach out to her. There's a Republican candidate from Nevada. I want to interview on the show. I want to see where she stands and what she thinks about the future of the party in that state. We keep missing each other's time schedules. Will you share a list of where the GOP should put House seat efforts? Yeah, later, not now though. But yeah, and it's not just going to be the GOP. It's going to be who I think has opportunities where. How is Trump polling in Arizona and Georgia? Well, that's what we're trying to find out with the Public Polling Project. Go to bigdatapoll.com right now. Scroll down, check out the public. Oh, you don't even have to scroll down anymore. You can see the link to the Public Polling Project in the menu. Click on it and contribute to Georgia. And we'll do our best to get it done ASAP as soon as we get it crowdfunded. Arizona, I'm leaving that open. I will say this. The last time we did poll Arizona and Georgia. And you know what? I'll talk to Todd. Maybe if we can get Georgia a little over halfway. Maybe Todd from CD Media will throw the rest in and we can do like a half sponsor. I don't want to do that. No. I want to keep them separate. Todd owns an outlet in Georgia. So that's why he sponsored, CD had sponsored us to do so much polling in Georgia for 22. Which, by the way, smear merchants, the final one we did for CD Media was dead on. Walker was up a point in our final Georgia. So what? We didn't poll the second round, dummies. Kemp won by 7, exactly the margin we had. Smear merchants. It's almost over for you. Almost over. You hear that? That's the last gasp of a campaign. Booyah! So I will say this. He was polling ahead of all the Republican candidates in both Arizona and Georgia. Shockingly, way ahead of Walker in the Atlanta metro area. To me, it was shy. Why? Because it's not because he's African American and I thought he would do better with the black vote. It's because he's an icon in Georgia and I thought he would do better with the black vote. Ultimately, a lot of them did not come out for him. Trump significantly outperformed Walker in Fulton County. Significantly. Trump gets in the 20s in Fulton County. Purdue, Walker, others, they got like, I think in the runoff, Walker ended up at like 9. And I think he got like 13 in the original. And it's bad. I don't know. I could look it up, but why lament? I know he outperformed both of them. But yeah, I mean, check out the Public Polling Project, and I'll tell you, I'd love to do it. Have we seen any polls on U.S. desire for overseas wars since all this drama popped off? When it comes to Israel, I don't think we have. That would be a really good thing to do. I think that's a wise thing to do. It's just that this poll was specifically centered on the impact of RFK and West in the race. That's a really good. It's a really good suggestion. However, it really is. Man, I need a coffee break. It's 1:30 and I just got definitely need a coffee break. How hard would it be to get rid of Lindsey Graham in South Carolina? Not hard. Trump saved him last time, and that's because of relationships. And if you're Trump, you don't want to pick a fight with Lindsey Graham. You want to win South Carolina. Not only do you want to win it, and I'm not talking about in the general, you're going to win it in the general. I'm talking, and despite how ridiculously fake the South Carolina general election polls are every year. North Carolina is always like D+7. South Carolina is always like R+7 or R+3. Oh my God, it's super close. Republicans win North Carolina, and Democrats get blown out by double digits in South Carolina every freaking year. And it is very significant, the round of polling you just saw from Emerson College. Even when you think the states don't matter, Indiana, Missouri, that matters. Go back and look in both 16 and 20 at how close they said the polling, they said the elections would be in those states. And Trump always outperformed. But here we have him doing better than he did in 2020 in like every single one of these states. It's a big deal that he's doing better in a state like Kansas and Nebraska. Why? There's a certain congressional district that allocates their electoral votes by district. It's been trending away from Republicans since the second Bush election. By the way, he gets blamed for losing it all the time, but it's been trending away for a long time. McCain. Go back and look at how McCain did there. Anyway, yeah, so I went on a little bit of a tangent there, but it would not be hard to get rid of Graham. You just, next time he's up for primarying him, got to primary him. And I don't think Trump will come out and save him again. But then again, let me not say that out loud. You know, I don't know. And others, if you guys are having an issue with Stripe or any of the stuff on that, let me know. I just noticed that there are a lot of PayPal things. And I'm talking about contributions to the Public Polling Project. And we added a Venmo option. It's just not it's just not great for larger contributions. Venmo will like flag you if you do a large contribution through Venmo. But I did notice a lot in PayPal, and I'm just wondering if everything's all right there. They did tell me that if you have Cloudflare, which we do for attacks and for caching, that there were some issues. They patched an update and sent it through. I love that they built that, the way they did, because it's like we have our own Go Send Go or GoFundMe, and I don't have to ever worry about GoFundMe and busting my chops over, raising crowdfunding for polling. Should be a public industry, much more than it is now. Minnesota is close. You have my attention. Delron Duke. I'll tell you this. People say, well, why would we fund the Public Polling Project nationally? Here's a reason right now. I'll give it to you right now. The faster you do that, the faster we'll do the Rust Belt poll. All right. The Rust Belt poll is part of the national. We just oversampled the Midwest, so I don't mind using the funding from that. So where are we at right now? Ballpark. Let me see. Let me go to the Public Polling Project and I'll check it out. Yeah, so we're about 39% funded for the national, 22% funded for Georgia. I don't mind at all using some of the national in the Rust Belt poll because, that's what we do there is basically oversample the Rust Belt. I don't mind that at all, and I'll do that. So that's an example of why you would do it, even though we already did the national, because I'll just, we eat it, but I don't mind doing it because Minnesota is in the Rust Belt poll. Do we still have the graphic for the Rust Belt poll? I could show them more. No, but I can pull it up real quick just to give you guys an idea of where it was. I'd love to show you the difference between where it was in 2020 and where it was in the last one we did, because I'll tell you, if he's really up by that much in some of these other states, Minnesota's going to be closer. Will he carry it? I always thought Donald Trump could carry Minnesota. They abandoned it, unfortunately, in 20 because of COVID. It got close in some states they thought they had. So that's unfortunate. You know what I could do? I could do this. I'm looking at it right now, and I don't know if I want to show all my menu stuff here. So let me see if I can get rid of. Yeah, I can. Okay. So for instance, this is how we do the graphics, and I'm gonna pull it up. This is the Rust Belt poll graphic in Canva, right? We make stuff in Canva. When I'm trying to illustrate how it would be when we did the last Rust Belt poll, that's what it looked like. All right, we had listen, Joe Biden was up by 2 in the 2020 final Rust Belt poll, and he carried Minnesota, Michigan, and he carried them all. Accordingly, but some of them were super, super, super close. It swung 9 points. So, Iowa, Ohio, very clearly in Trump's camp, and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin get very, very, very close, but it was still Trump's. And Wisconsin is the most Republican one. Excuse me. And then you have, which is weird, and we need to fix that. I don't know how that or why. I don't know. No, maybe I'll wait. If the data said that, I'll wait. It's possible we can get a fluke where Michigan is all of a sudden more Republican 1 month. It's possible. And then Minnesota was the last of the Mohegans, but I don't know. It may at least be light blue. I don't know. So that was what it looked like in the last Rust Belt poll we did. I can't wait to see it again. I mean, it was like Trump +7, guys. So, and Fox covered it, Newsmax covered it, everybody covered it. All we saw was, that can't be. Well, did you look at the RCP average lately? That's just because nobody was polling them. Had people polled them, they would have seen it. So that's, I love the Rust Belt poll. It's one of the coolest projects I've ever worked on. I remember them guys at the Epoch Times, Jasper and others, they were like, we want something different. We want something really cool. What would you do? And to me, in 16, we were kind of like out on a limb, being the only ones who were saying Minnesota is close, and everyone else thought that was crazy. And then that turned out to be the case. So to me, in 2020, it was always about look, the other states obviously did matter, and you don't ever want to kick them aside because things change and coalitions shift. But to me, it was always a matter of, if Trump holds the Rust Belt, he'll be reelected. It's that simple. Let me see if I can find that old Minnesota. If I can't find the poll, I'll at least be able to find the article with some of the data in it. Yeah, there was arguments that Minnesota could actually be more friendly to Trump than some of the other blue wall states that he flipped in 16. I kid you not. And I just found an article where I examined that and debated whether or not that would be true. And it was. Let me see if I got some of the graphs in here. Bear with me, guys. Bear with me. All right, so this was, Minnesota's battleground state. And people were like, you're nuts. But let's see if I can go down and find some of just to give people an idea, this is a good thing to do. The North Star State has only voted Republican 3 times since 1932. and it hasn't since 76, even bucking the entire country in 1984. Obviously, Mondale was from there. It stood alone as the only state to back Democratic candidate Mondale, albeit by the slimmest of margins. Oh, you're going to kill me here. Come on, don't do it. Don't do it. By the slimmest of margins, Mondale carried it 49.72, or a little over 1,036,000 votes to 49.54. I mean, Reagan was like less than 4,000 votes behind him. In 2000, Democrat Vice President Al Gore, he got 49.1. Bush got 45.5. Really close. Not, I mean, even though it looks like a couple of points, Nader took 5.2%. Or 120, almost 127,000 votes. Remember this. I'm just saying this is obviously going to matter. More than Jill Stein was receiving in the polls at 2%. And remember that George W. Bush was running as an America First kind of Republican in 2016. In 2000. He was not running as a rhino. When he ran as a rhino again in 2004, it wasn't that close. And you could actually, I do have it here. You could see it here. 51.1 to 47.6. So Bush lost ground. 2 reasons. Nader off the ballot and Bush being a rhino. You're just not going to make any more gains like that. Only President Obama blew out his Republican rivals. McCain, he kicked the crap out of McCain in Minnesota. And then Romney, he drummed by 8 points, roughly. All right. So why do we think it's close? Populism, plain and simple. You can see the populist trend going back to 1860. What was different in 2020 was that educated white vote, Ramsey, all that area, in the Twin Cities area, got much, much, much more Democrat, even as Republicans got parts of the Iron Range. Or I wouldn't even say Republicans. I'd say Trump made a lot of deal in the Iron Range. And this is us saying, look, we concede that other pollsters, one showed it close, which was Gravis. Survey USA did not. Survey USA would later put their final poll out. It was like Clinton plus 16 or something ridiculous, 12 or 16. And we did not. Ours was 2 point something. That's the graph I really wanted to show you guys. Population of color, biracial, and ethnic group in Minnesota leading up to 2015. We'll have to update this. I just wanted to show you this trend. All right. You could see 2 or more races. This is in raw actual numbers. You can see the black share of the state has risen considerably. But here is where Minnesota could be a little bit finicky. If Trump's non-white vote share goes up, even in the north, which is going to be tougher, Minnesota's got a lot of different kind of groups, Somalis. So it would make it tougher for him to do better there than, say, like Georgia or North Carolina, right? That's where black vote share is going to matter. I mean, it all matters, but it's more conservative in the South, in the Midwest, than it is in some of these more liberal centers and even in northern places. The Rust Belt, true, it is. But, the Twin Cities looks different than Pittsburgh. All right. Very different city for people who've never been to both. Anyway, so that's where it was. I think the final one was like Clinton 2 point something, 2.4 or something like that. But Jill Stein got 2. Gary Johnson getting 5 at that time. Trump's voters were more committed, by the way, 89%. Clinton's votes were not, 77%. So that all of this kind of came together to make it a battleground. And I'm seeing that kind of like impact of the third party now. And that's why I'm saying it needs to be polled again to see whether or not that it is that close. All right. We can dive into the speaker's race today. John, let me tell you about what's going on here. What happened with Steve Scalise and him bailing out. At least he has more, I don't know what to call it. I don't think it's character. I don't know what it is. But, he realized he couldn't get the votes and he jumped on it. Then immediately after, Emmer was like, I'm going to make a secret vote. And by the way, he was already running this kind of shadow campaign behind Scalise's back. These people stab each other in the back the first chance they can get. All of this is going on. All of it is going on because the McCarthy caucus, the Rhino caucus, flatly refuses to acknowledge the possibility that MAGA has more influence in the House. Why? Money for donations. Jim Jordan cannot promise them what Emmer and Scalise can promise them, which is that McCarthy will make calls on their behalf and keep their money coming. You have people, I'm sorry. I know that there are others who have asked me to just be nicer to Duarte, and I get it, but he screws up and he'll let you down every step of the way. He is turning out to be exactly what I told people he was. He cares about his reelection. Valadeo is a scumbag. He had some staffer tell him it was the smart move to vote to impeach Donald Trump. That's why he did it. Valadeo didn't think there was enough evidence to impeach Donald Trump. He personally did not. Come on my show, David, and argue that I'm wrong. Argue that I'm not telling the truth right now. I friggin' dare you. You knew there wasn't enough evidence. Your staff told you you were going to lose if you didn't vote to impeach the guy. Now he's putting his own reelection ahead of the party, the country, and his own voters. They don't want Jim Jordan to have the gavel because of the money thing. But then again, there's also something else that Cernovich has been bringing up. He's 100% correct. The Emmers, the Scalises, the McCarthys, the Ryans, the Boehners, all of them do something to these for these rhinos that Jim Jordan will not do. Provide them cover. They love the grift. They love being able every 2 years to run as something they're not and then go to D.C. and stab their voters in the back. They like being protected when they're doing that. This is all about not being exposed as the liars they are, the frauds they are. Money to Ukraine. Steve Scalise would not relent on Ukraine, and he wanted to get rid of the motion to vacate. That's when he lost people like Chip Roy, who said, listen, we can get rid of what is, the mechanism as it stands right now, but we need some tool. So here's my proposal. Here's my amendment. They shot it down. They don't want to return to the point where you can hold your speaker accountable. And if frankly, folks, whether you agree with it or not, if you don't keep some mechanism like that, then all of this was for nothing. The 15 votes for McCarthy was for nothing. The motion to vacate McCarthy was for nothing. So that's where we are. Keep an eye on locals. I've been giving them the inside scoop well before anybody else on Twitter has found out about it, as my locals community can attest. Is Rich still helping with the CBSD elections? Unfortunately, not in the capacity I was before. When can we start ignoring DeSantis like we ignore Kristi Kreme? I mean, honestly, at this point, he's done. After the fake, their own version of the Very Fine People hoax, they think voters are dumb, and voters aren't stupid. Even Molly Hemingway, she was trying to refrain from attacking DeSantis in her comment, but even she pointed it out. You're not going to get away with this. It's going to look ugly. I predict the remaining America First vote that DeSantis has is now gone. Or DeSantis, sorry, is now gone. And that he will winnow down even further as he loses never Trump votes to Nikki Haley. Because he's finished. He's done. Spoke about the effect of going door to... the legislature is going to flip in New Jersey or Virginia. Very, 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 very close. Very close. Obviously, one of those races in Virginia is now off the table. The Republican is way ahead after the Democrat was caught on, Spank-A-Lot. I mean, one of their choke it bait. I don't know what one of these chatter bait. Having sex for coins. A healthcare professional, by the way. I don't give a damn what you do in the bedroom. I'm certainly no one to talk. I am no friggin' pilgrim. All right. I know, listen, you get one life. Better have fun while you have it. Find someone to have fun with and ride it out. But there's just no chance I'm ever putting my wife in front of a camera and doing something like that. I don't care, to each his own. I love Brandy. I love Brandy Love. She writes great stuff on The Federalist, and to each her own, and her husband have their lifestyle, and that's fine. But this is the difference between what she did and what Brandy Love does. Brandy doesn't apologize for who she is. I work in the porno industry, and tough. You don't like it? Tough crap. You want to be judgmental? Up yours. I'm a conservative too, by the way, and partly libertarian. I'm just more libertarian on some of those social issues. That's not what this woman did. You can't pretend to be something you're not and then get caught. You can't claim to be I'm the educated suburban mother from upper middle class Virginia. You know Democrats are supposed to be voting for people like me today. And then end up bent over in front of cameras asking people how many coins you'll give me if I do this. And by the way, what she did to the guy who came to the door, I thought Democrats don't like that crap. Maybe the guy was married. How many coins will you give me if I open the door naked for this poor guy at the hotel? Just don't lie about who you are. And Americans will forgive you for a lot. But you pretend you're some friggin' Susie Q. I'm somehow the wife from Leave It to Beaver, and I can make it on my own, Mandy Moore, or whatever the hell her name was, all wrapped up into one, and I'm a modern woman. I do it all with my loving husband, and look at my children. You pretend to be like that, and the next thing you know, end up, ugh. You deserve it. You deserve to lose. And this is someone who, look, I don't think it was right to go after Porter. I mean, she wants to have a sexual relationship with her staffer. It's probably not a good ethical idea, but, that's not why Republicans, a lot of them, were attacking her for it. We all know why. It's because it was a woman, right? My problem with her is that she allowed herself to be put in a compromised position. Doing drugs and having an unethical sexual relationship is a great thing for the Chinese to get you for. And then the next time they need something from you, they got you. So if you're going to be creepy or crazy, either A, be out with it, which is what I would do, or B, be smarter and don't put yourself in compromising positions, both of which is what those two women did. But yeah, we'll see. So it's still, even with that, it's very close. But I can tell you this, it does look like Republicans are making inroads with early voting in Virginia, just not as much as I would argue they need to make. Why? Because they could have a huge turnout on election day, and that's going to cover that they did something wrong. They didn't do enough because no one will talk about it. They'll be praised for it. Or they could have a disappointing election day turnout and then realize that's why you need to do more. We'll see. I do have something I got to get off before 2, so let me go through quick rapid fire. The effect of going door to door for a few candidates a few weeks back. Do you recommend candidates knocking on doors? Absolutely. Will we shift towards candidates need to listen, that's why I don't even like working for them, and they don't like having me because they hate my guts. What are you doing? Get off your fat ass and go knock on some doors. You want to win the election? Go earn it. Right, Laura? I'm horrible. So is Laura. Oh, my God. What are you doing? Why are you home? Why are you calling me? You should be on the phone with voters, phone banking, calling donors. Go knock on the door. Why aren't you in this parade? Get off your ass and go earn the win, yo. You want Donald Trump's endorsement? You don't deserve it. Based on my polling, which election does this look like right now? What a great question. It looks like nothing else I would honestly ever see, and I would ever be able to say at this moment. It's something different. I would say it's close to 2016, only with more benefits to Trump, a lot more. If it doesn't spoil the suit, what will Congress look like if MAGA wins? What do you think? I think they have a better chance at 2024 if MAGA wins the speaker fight. But as of right now, I got to be honest, it's looking like Trump wins the presidency and Republicans get their ass kicked in the Senate and the House. I'm sorry. That's what it looks like. I'm glad you followed me too. Do you think Trump will win in 24? At this moment, I do. Right now? I mean, things can change, but right now. What are your thoughts on Emerson giving Trump a very high +9 in PA, but only +2 in Wisconsin? What a great question, Benny. PA can come across very Trumpy when you're polling it, more Trumpy than the other big three, I would say, or tight three Rust Belt states. Wisconsin is much more rural and harder to harder to truly gauge. Wisconsin's a very tough state to poll, but I would say that that's where that's coming from. And then you can see that Trump's base is just stronger in Pennsylvania because it is more, there's just more Trumpy attitudinally and geographically. And then you have in Wisconsin, probably a very similar sized base that Trump's vote is not going to fall down, but they're a lot harder to reach and a lot harder to poll. And they have a higher social bias. If you go to the election project from 2020, go look at the social bias indicators and you'll see that Wisconsin is off the map. Snowman Trump is a rock star at my older child's high school with the kids. Chicago suburb, 30-30-30, white, black, Latino. This is what I'm telling you, Snowman. I'm telling you, that is the opportunity. Look at the special election in New York a couple of weeks ago. Republicans lost it because they thought the white vote was going to come through for them. At the end, it swung the Democrats, and it was Asians and Hispanics in the boroughs that voted Republican. And they narrowly lost the seat. Like a bunch of idiots. That's without them even doing the work. Imagine if they had a coherent strategy. Vince Locker, speaking of Virginia, any thoughts on the House of Delegates, state Senate races this November? Seeing a lot of effort by Youngkin and get out the vote. I would say, I mean, those were my thoughts, Vince. We'll see. I still think they are doing better, but I think that they are still going to need a big election day turnout if they hope to do to keep, those control. Not take back in one instance, of course. So that's, where we're at. Democrats, they took back a lot of seats that Republicans won in 21, and it's going to take a lot. And Youngkin is out there doing what he can. He's got a high approval rating. That's necessary. But, we'll see. We'll see. Cautiously optimistic is what I would say Republicans should be. Cautiously optimistic, but still run like you're 10 points down statewide and get out there and do what you got to do. You have the votes. They're there. Virginia's another one of those states, by the way, where there's a gold mine on the consumer file of people who don't vote anymore, or once upon a time did and then don't, or have never been registered to vote, and they would vote Republican 100% if you got them. That's all over the consumer file right now. Virginia, you can make it uncomfortably close at the presidential level if they did that. All right. Don't forget to join Locals, peoplespundit.locals.com, peoplespundit.locals.com. We have to have the book club this week. We have to. All right. So I know we have Mumfest going on. That's going to have to wait or be on Saturday or something. I don't know. I got to shift it around, but I cannot continue to miss Sundays. So we will be doing the book club on Sundays. Keep your eye to it, supporters and members on YouTube. Again, this is the best place to follow us. peoplespundit.locals.com. You get everything first. You'll get it all. Central Hub. You can support the polling project from there as well. But the best thing to do is just sign up and keep your eye on the sky. Keep your eye on the prize. Again, if you like the videos, don't forget to like, share, sign up, subscribe. If you're on Rumble, the little plus signs, sign up and subscribe to the Rumble channel so you get notified when we go live. On YouTube, same thing, notification bell. You can check out the show right from Locals now. They are fixing some tweaks, but in the end, it'll all be worth it. And you'll be able to watch basically from anywhere, right on your television, Amazon Fire, whatever app you want to do. So let them figure this out. It'll be worth it in the end, I promise. All right. So with that in mind, have a safe day. Keep your eyes open. All right. Keep your eyes open. Right? I don't know how else to put this. Keep your eyes open, stay aware, and hopefully it'll be a happy Friday the 13th. Okay? I have nothing but love for you folks. All the best. I'm out. Kicking butt. I guess Laura's microphone doesn't have it. She said, deuces.